Hey, this is Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, and you are listening to the ghost host, Sophia Temperilli, on LiveParanormal.com.
Today we welcome the Paranormal Files YouTube sensation Colin Browen. Nearly reaching 450,000 subscribers with his video platform today, Colin's ongoing videos capture amazing moments at some of the most infamous haunted locations in America and just all around. Everyone visit his YouTube channel, The Paranormal Files, Instagram at The Paranormal Files, at Colin Browen. Let's welcome him into the show.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was having connection issues on my end. I don't know what was happening here.
Oh, that's totally fine. I get how that works and everything. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and, congratulations on all your success with your YouTube channel.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's just been a wild ride from the very beginning on YouTube. Never expected to be here, honestly, but couldn't be happier that I am.
And I hope you're feeling better. I know you recently got diagnosed with COVID-19, so I hope you're doing better, and, thank you for still coming on today.
Yeah, my voice, you can definitely hear it in my voice, and I can feel it in my lungs. It's had kind of a lingering effect on me, but I am, pretty much 100% better at this point. That was about 2.5 weeks ago when I first got the diagnosis, but weird just to actually have the coronavirus and to sit there and think that I'm actually infected with it. I never expected to actually get it. I've been actually very, I don't know what the word would be, but astute in not seeing people, but I contracted it somehow.
Yeah, it's crazy, how that just all works and the way the world has changed. I know you said on your recent YouTube video that you were actually going to move to England this summer. So I know that those plans kind of changed a little bit. What kind of made you want to move to England?
Well, I've been to England twice. I love Europe. What an amazing, obviously, bunch of countries over there. And the history is just unparalleled, especially in the U.S. You don't have anything close to the kind of history that they have over in Europe, with just so many different eras and types of locations to investigate and places to visit. But I have a couple of really good friends in England, and both of them, they've come over to the U.S. to film some videos with me before. They have a pretty big channel called Proving Demons. I've gone and visited them, and we were just talking, and just came up with the idea of kind of setting up a house of paranormal YouTubers in England where we could all just stay together in the same place, make content all the time, and just travel. Because once you're in England, you can easily get to, Paris, Italy, like any place in Europe. It's more or less just a short jump, and then you're pretty much there, as opposed to being in the U.S. where you'd have to, make a pretty big journey. But I am kind of running out of locations in Texas. I've been filming here, for so many years that at this point it's, I don't know, to be in England where they have just literally thousands of places that you could film at almost every night, and then be able to go to any other country over there and experience those different types of hauntings, that is, I think, the major draw to me. And I wish that I could have gone over, but COVID-19 screwed up a lot of things in my life, but I'm still here.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're doing better, and I'm sure you'll be able to go to England soon. There's so much history over in Europe, so I can't imagine, all the activity and cool places you'll be able to go to. What's kind of the number one location that you're looking forward to investigating over there?
I would say that there's a number. There's a couple of big projects that I'm trying to work on that we would ideally film in England. But Denbigh Asylum is, I think, don't quote me on this, I think that it is the largest asylum in all of Europe. It's a massive abandoned complex, just so many different wings and hallways. And it's notorious just because of the treatment of patients. And I'm always, drawn in by the asylum stories, because when you have a place that is just, filled with such a deep darkness. That's something that you can really feel. It's kind of tangible when you get there. And there's also like, so what's really cool about England is they don't demolish old houses. In the U.S., we're very eager to get rid of old buildings. We're ready the moment a place, closes to tear it down and build something brand new. But in England, they're not like that. They just allow some of these old buildings to sit in the woods. And so when I was there, I visited a place called the John Lowe Murder House, Keeper's Cottage Stud. It's a place where I think it was 2016 or 17, very recently, a guy kind of went mad and shot his wife and
oh wow,
her daughter in the head, and said that they needed to be put down like dogs because he was a dog breeder. And to be able to actually visit like a house like that so recently after this stuff happened, you just don't have that in the U.S. because the place is abandoned now. It's off in the woods. And actually, when I was there, we got chased down the road by some sort of a psychopath with a flashlight. It was about 3 a.m. Scared the
oh my God,
crap out of me. Yeah, some dude just came out of the woods and chased us down the road. We had no idea that they were there in the first place. But there's a lot of houses like that. There's one in specific that I really want to go to. It was a murder location, and I've found this place on forums, and I have the address of it. But inside, it's like an old farm with multiple buildings, but inside the barn area, there are all of these just crazy, bizarre, almost cult-like bone sculptures and art pieces. Like you walk into this room, and there's like, it's like, have you seen True Detective?
I haven't, but what's coming to mind is like more the forest where the video game where they have like effigies set up everywhere.
Exactly, yes. Like just little kind of like tribute sculptures, if you will. And I mean, this place, it's got literally like bones hanging from the ceiling, like cow tongues that are, dried and just gross looking at this point, but they're nailed to walls. You've got skulls painted and big, weird, cryptic cult writing. It's crazy. And to me, that would be, just obviously an amazing place to investigate and just to visit in the first place, because there's no explanation as to where this stuff came from. It was probably just some, bored artist, but you never know. Maybe there's some sort of like really deep spiritual energy that's in this room or on the property. Either way, it's just creepy,
Yeah, I immediately think of like Doll Island in Mexico. There's the backstory of the little girl, but there's just so many creepy dolls everywhere. They light up without batteries. You have spiders crawling out of the eyes and stuff just over time. Just really creepy.
Island of the Dolls is a place that I've always wanted to visit, but once again, can't exactly leave the country right now. I'm not trying to. That's probably the last thing that's on my mind, but international stuff is so intriguing. Very different energy.
Yeah, I would love to see Doll Island. The spiders freak me out more than the spirits. I hate spiders. So that's the number one thing that comes to mind.
I've said that so many times in my videos. People make fun of me routinely because I hate spiders so much. Just the other day, I kid you not, this was, just terrifying to me. In my apartment in Austin, I live on like a subfloor, so it's not really a basement, but it goes down from the ground level in the parking lot. And so my hallway, for some reason, is always filled with just the creepiest of crawlies. I get scorpions, I get centipedes, I get spiders, everything. And I had this just gigantic wolf spider the last like 3 or 4 days that was just sitting outside of my door. And when I would open up the door just to leave my apartment, this thing was like the size of, I'd say like half of my hand, like gigantic. This thing would be sitting right in front of my door, staring at me. I'm like, bro, it's been 2 days. Are you not going to move? Please, just freaking me out. Every time I open the damn door, he's just sitting there waiting for me. He's probably there right now.
Yeah, I hate spiders. Literally every time I open the shower curtain, there's a spider in the bathtub. I hate it so much. I can't, I just want them to go away. And if they just don't. I swear, like, they're out to get me. I tell my family that, and they tell me I'm overreacting. Well, why am I the only one that finds the spider?
It just doesn't make sense.
The amount of times I've also just been in the woods filming for the YouTube and had, you know, my fear of spiders. I love spiders. They're great creatures. They're very cool insects. But, I mean, like, I've been in the woods at 2 a.m. filming outside of, like, an abandoned, I don't know, cemetery, crawling through the woods trying to find this place. And I'll have one of my friends point at my shirt and be like, Colin, please don't move. Don't freak out. And I'm like, what? Like, there's something on your back. And it's a big-ass spider. I got it on film, too. It was, like, literally, once again, like half the size of my hand. Just a gigantic spider that dropped onto me. And that's happened so many times that it's just, I don't know, it sends a chill down my spine. I know they probably won't hurt me, but I just don't like them being on me. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, they're just weird, and they do come so big. I know where my aunt lives, in Central.
My tarantula is just, like, crawling up her windows. She'll just find, like, huge spiders. And she thinks it's really cool to post on Facebook, and I think it's really cool if she doesn't. But, I mean, I love investigating, but that's always the thing that's, like, in the back of my mind is if you go into an asylum that's just been abandoned or just any place out in the woods, there's probably spiders there. I just do my best to pretend they're not.
Yeah, it's you kind of have to put it in your mind that I'm not going to get attacked by a spider. I'm not going to, you know, see one today. But for some reason, you always end up seeing one. Those little freaks are just everywhere, especially in the woods. You can't get away from them. Roaches, too. Oh, my God. Roaches I can't stand. Good God. How many times I've had a flying roach land in my hair? That is the freakiest feeling. Yeah. Back when I had my very long hair down to my chest, we would film at night as well and just get freaking big flying roaches, literally gigantic, like inches long. They would just land in my freaking hair, and the damn thing just crawls in. You have to, like, I can't even describe how freaky that is. It gives me, like, PTSD to think about. They just crawl, like, up into your head, and you got to shake your hair out, and, like, I'm always, you know, I'm a very jumpy dude, so I'm, like, screaming, like, oh my God! Everyone's like, Colin, what? But, yeah, I just, insects and filming, it's not a very good combo in my mind. It's kind of the worst, I would say. But I have a spider tattoo because I kind of know my fears, and I want to get over them, and it's one of my favorites, so here I am.
I would say the worst insect experience for me was I was filming at a cemetery with my friend, and she kept complaining about mosquitoes, and I kept telling her she was overreacting till I looked down at my jeans and I had about 50 of them on my pants, and that freaked me out because I don't want one on me, let alone like 50. So that was just really weird because I totally said she was overreacting, and apparently she wasn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, people always say that I overreact too when it comes to spiders, but it's just when you're out there and you experience that, what are you going to do? It's hard to just, you know, people on YouTube are also always commenting that. There's always people that, you know, have something to say. Most of the people that watch my videos are just such amazing people, and I love all of them, but, you know, the nature of the internet, you're going to bring out people that always have something to say. I just have learned to kind of ignore people that are rude. I used to get made fun of for just so many different things. But one of them was spiders. Like, people saying, oh, why would you freak out so badly? It's just a spider. I'm like, bro, do you want a gigantic spider crawling on your arm at 2:30 a.m. outside of the abandoned murder house? Does that sound fun to you? Would you be calm? Just sit there and go, oh, poor little guy. Here you go. Brush him off. No, there's no way you would. It's easy to assume that you know what you would do in a situation when you watch it online, but you don't ever know until you're actually there. It brings me to one of my big points that I always tell people about the YouTube and the paranormal in general. You have to live it, and you have to experience it. It's all experience based. I would say 90%, if not more of that, of paranormal investigating is just feeling and energy. Truly, it's something you can't compute, something you can't analyze with a tool. I wish you could. Something you can't film. I've spent my whole life doing this, and I still don't feel like I've ever really captured that, smoking gun. I've gotten some great evidence and everything, but to me, it's the vibe when you walk into, let's say, an abandoned hospital. There are some hospitals even that I've been to that are just dead. I've been to places where multiple nights too. Like I've been on a very active night, and I've been on a night when literally nothing has happened in 6 hours, that I've been in the same location where I've been scratched and we've had doors slamming shut, and you can just feel that the energy is not there. But you can't get that across through a video or through a device. It's impossible. It's so much experience based that I always encourage people, just go out, do it yourself, and kind of feel what we're feeling. That's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Doesn't matter to me if someone's a skeptic or doesn't believe. I know that paranormal is very hard to believe unless you've experienced it yourself. I've had my own experiences, but for you, what kind of initially led you to wanting to explore the paranormal and just have a belief in it?
Well, my house is haunted. I don't know if you've ever seen my video series. I was actually just on a podcast. It's an amazing production. It's called the Night Owl Podcast. This dude, Steven, he's from Austin. He's a great friend of mine. I just was on there, I think, 2 weeks ago. They had a whole episode about my family's haunting. I was just talking to my dad about this because I'm actually going to be home next week seeing my family after, they want to see me after the COVID stuff, and it's been 3.5 weeks since I got my diagnosis at that point. But when I was in high school, we moved into a house. It was completely brand new. No one had ever lived even on the property. It was dirt before we built the house. And that house ended up being so unbelievably haunted that I had friends that would refuse to come over. They wouldn't come see me. I had people that left my house in the middle of the night because of things that happened when they were supposed to be spending the night, and I'd go down to the bedroom the guest room that they're supposed to be staying in, and they'd just be gone. I'd text them and ask what happened, and they'd tell me a ghost story. I was experiencing, honestly, terrifying things, not on a nightly basis, but on a frequency where you come to be afraid of where you're living, because the stuff that was happening was definitely not positive. Something was pissed off. And through doing all of that, I was telling my friends, I told people at school, I came to be known as like the ghost guy. I'd be at like, I don't know, like little high school parties, and people would just take me into a room on the side and ask me to tell the story of my haunted house. And I would, obviously enjoy doing that. But I'm sad that I never filmed any of that, looking back on it, because of my career now. I did the whole video series on my channel, 3-hour-long episodes. Not 3 hours long each, 1 hour. That'd be a crazy amount of footage. But we had to have one of my really good friends in Sioux Falls. Her name's Donna O'Day. She's a psychic medium, and she is just such a wonderful soul and a beautiful woman. And she's about 80 years old. She came with a group of mediums that she works with and did this whole cleansing of the house. And we thought that it was over at that point. No. The things that happened afterwards were some of the scariest, even to this day. Last year, and I think it was July or August, my dad called me because he was home alone, and I was just in Texas working late one night, and he told me that he heard somebody literally run across the main floor of the house up to his bedroom door, like 20 loud footsteps. Yeah, and he was so afraid that when he called me, he was like getting his handgun from the closet, and he thought someone had broken in. That's how real it was. So after, that was a long little tangent, but after people kind of knew that I was this ghost person, I got asked to come to my high school for a ghost hunt for the newspaper. And I was like, yeah, I'd never heard of the school being haunted. I agreed to do it just because I wanted to help everybody out, and it sounded fun. But it ended up being so haunted. The school ended up being so unbelievably active that the first time we went in, we had teachers that were with us that left the basement that we were investigating because they were too afraid. They saw things, heard things, swore they'd never go down there again. And these are teachers that have worked there for so long. And this is also not an ingenuine fear. They were like actually afraid. And when I came back, I was like, why did I not bring a camera if I want to film? Like, I've always made movies, and I've always wanted to be a film director. But We went back a second time. Crazy amount of stuff happened, and after that, I started to dig in, and I decided I was going to make just a documentary about the school. And I worked with the principal, and we had janitors come back to the school who had quit 20 years ago on the spot because of paranormal activity. They wouldn't let me show their faces. They wouldn't even go into the rooms where they experienced the stuff because they were so freaked out. And through doing all of that, we released the movie. We had a premiere at my high school. It was a fundraiser for the newspaper. We sold tickets. The local news came out. They filmed at the premiere, interviewed me. I was on the front page of the newspaper. And from that point on, I was kind of like, you know what? I can do this. It's pretty, I'm not going to say I was thinking I was good at it, but it was just, it kind of came to me. And then I got my show, Teen Spirit, which was on go90.com, it's a website that, unfortunately, we filmed the whole season, Emmy Award-winning producers all throughout Texas. It was just amazing, a whole production team and a crew. The entire network went bankrupt, and so the show got deleted off the internet. You can't even watch one of the episodes. The only way you can see any of the episodes is if you plug in my old hard drive from 2016 where I have the backups of the episodes stored. It's sad. But that was my kind of big thing that I said, I'm going to do this. This is going to be like my end. I'm going to have a career. I was in film school at the time. But when the show got canceled, I was in film class, and they called me and said, oh, yeah, the show's canceled. The whole network's done. And I walked down the hallway and just started crying in school. I was so depressed. And I decided, though, I'm not just going to let this kind of sadness win over me. I'm going to take this and turn it into something. That's when I started doing the YouTube, putting a lot of effort into it. And then about a year and a half after that, I was doing so well on there that I actually dropped out of film school and said, this is full-time, and now here I am. It's a full-time job. So, yeah, that's a bit longer of an answer than I think you wanted for that question. But that's kind of like the whole story of where I came from and how I got to this point in my life.
Yeah, no, I mean, that all made sense. I mean, it's a great answer. I lived in a haunted house, too, and it really does change your life. I mean, it's freaky. I mean, your house is supposed to be a place where you feel safe, and once that's taken away from you, I mean, your life kind of changes at that point. You can't really look at things the same because the place you thought was the safest in the world just isn't. I always say that even if I wanted to leave the paranormal, that those experiences wouldn't leave me. So I love what I do, so just stick with it. And I think that's kind of what happened to you, too.
It's exactly what happened. And that's kind of the way it is, I feel like, with a lot of people that have experiences and that are into the paranormal. They always have this one story that kind of convinced them. And you can't, if you're not seeking out those experiences, you have such a lower chance of ever finding one. And if your mind is kind of closed off to all of it, you can still have experiences, but the human brain is very, analytical, and it likes to be scientific. So it's very easy to just ascribe, a cause or a reason to why something happened. But a lot of times when it comes to paranormal activity, there's always an explanation for something. Oh, that, could have been an animal in the woods just making a noise, or that could have been someone breaking into the building, or blah, blah, blah. But most of the time, you don't know that that's what it was. But people will, in their minds, say that they know what, caused something, even if they don't know what it was. And so, yeah, a lot of people I feel have had paranormal experiences, and they just, either they don't want to admit it to themselves, or they just don't really know what to look for. And so it just gets, thrown to the side. But once your mind's open to that, if you have this stuff happen to you, you kind of start to notice the things that happen. Even in places that aren't supposed to be haunted, there are still, things that you will experience. I've been to places that don't have any history whatsoever and still experience some form of a haunting, because it's all energy based no matter what. There's good energy, there's positive hauntings, things that are, good, but then that's why I like the negative. I like the dark stuff, because when you have, like, for example, in an asylum or a hospital where 3,000 people died, somewhat agonizing deaths, maybe after being wounded in a car wreck or after a long, tedious battle with some sort of disease, when you have not only the death and then you have all the family members and that sadness, it kind of just stains an environment. And that's why I like the dark places, because that's always the very, very intense energy that you can really feel. And I'm not afraid of it. I just embrace it.
I know we have to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back with more questions.
This is author Alexandra Holzer, and you're listening to Ghost host Sophia Temporelli.
Hi, this is Jeff Belanger, host of 30 Odd Minutes, founder of GhostVillage.com, and author of lots of your favorite paranormal books, and you're listening to the Ghost host, Sophia, on LiveParanormal.com. Boo!
Hey, this is Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, and you are listening to the Ghost host, Sophia Temperilli, on LiveParanormal.com.
Congratulations, Sophia. 9 years of broadcasting as the Ghost host on LiveParanormal.com.
Thank you again for coming on today, Colin.
Of course. Thank you for having me on. It's my pleasure to be here. You've got an amazing program, and just listening to Dave talk, he's a friend of mine. I was giggling while that was playing just now. He's a funny guy. I love the man.
Yeah, that actually brings me to my next question. How did you initially become a contributor on the Dark Zone and also a part of The Conjuring Live?
Basically, it's kind of just a weird story. Jay, Jay Bloomke, he runs the Dark Zone. He's kind of one of the, obviously brains behind all of it, if not, the brain, because he's been involved in paranormal stuff for so long. He reached out to me years ago when my channel had I think 10,000 subscribers, and just said that he believed in me. We talked on the phone, said we're going to meet up one day and we can work on something together. And then he was one of the first people that ever reached out that actually was there for the journey and wasn't, so I've talked to so many different producers and people in different industries, and you can kind of tell when someone is actually invested in you and not invested in some sort of a product or a gain. And that's why I put my faith in him. And years later, now I've got one of the largest paranormal YouTube channels in existence, and I've been able to help Jay with a lot of different things. We've been through some weird experiences together. I even went to visit him on the set of his show that he was working on in Texas when they were filming here. Saw him in LA. He's come out to Austin multiple times, and he just called me a couple months ago because he had been talking about the Conjuring House live stream for a while, and he was like, "You want to be a part of the event?" I'm like, do you think I'm going to say no to that? Of course. Yeah, let's do it, man. And the thing went so well, and actually the segments that I was on, it was my idea to do a Ouija board between the two locations, and I did a Ouija board with the family that is living there. Great people too. And we had a lot of weird activity, and at the time my family, they actually moved out of that haunted house, I think almost a year ago, last August. And so they moved down to Austin, got an apartment, and they thought they were going to build a house here. Ended up getting just a much smaller house in South Dakota, and they're living up there now. But at the time, we didn't have anywhere to go, and this was kind of when, COVID had hit, and then it swelled down a little bit. But states that reopened started to open. Texas, obviously, is one of those states, and just on a totally different note, it's just crazy to me to see how many cases are in Austin. I seriously myself have not been doing really anything, and I still got it. And it's I'm diabetic, and like I said, I'm very conscious about who I talk to. I've worn a face mask every time I've left my apartment, even if I'm walking to my car, used hand sanitizer, washed my hands, everything you can do, but I still got it. And to see that they're bringing in the mobile morgues that obviously you had those in New York back in, what was it, March? It's crazy to see that it's gotten to that level here. But And that's a whole different thing. I've talked about the paranormal with my thoughts on coronavirus, how it's kind of creating this dark history in so many different places. Even like, you know, there's so many places that you visit and they're like, oh, in the 1920s, this house was a flu hospital and there were thousands of people that passed through here and 150 died. It's like that type of history is being written right now for paranormal investigators in the future with all these places that are being used as you know, makeshift coronavirus hospitals in arenas and everything like that. That history is going to be there. But yeah, I was on the Conjuring live stream, and we were. The reason I'm saying this is because we were in a rental house at the time, and I had no idea that this was even a thing. I was in this really creepy room in the basement of this house. There's multiple rooms. There's 2 in the basement. They were all designed with like different themes in mind. And my room was the like a Christian farmer room, so I had crosses everywhere and like farm decor. Yeah, it was very interesting to say the least. The other room was like a French theme, and it had like a mannequin of a woman with a black dress. It's just creepy. And
that is really creepy.
Yeah, if you were there, you would think it was creepy. And I'm not really creeped out easily, but it was just like bizarre and so dark down there. And the first night that I was there, I was like hearing footsteps and stuff. And doing this for so long, I'm like a huge skeptic now. So I'm never creeped out like that ever. Even in my apartment, I've got all these like haunted objects that I've collected and things people have sent to me. I'm never creeped out in here, but we come to find out that the woman who owned the house told my parents, without us even asking, that she thought that there's 13 spirits in the home. A psychic had told her that. And I was like, what? Like, I've been saying this to you guys, and the homeowner is telling you that this rental house, which is also, it was built like 4 months ago. She's saying that there's spirits here, and literally 2 minutes before I was supposed to phone in to the Conjuring live stream, I think I said this at one point when I was on, and this was just wacky to me. They had these phones in the house that you can make calls from, but you couldn't receive calls at. It wasn't like a home phone. And I literally was sitting there about to phone in. The freaking phone starts ringing next to me, next to where I've set up my equipment and the computer for the live stream. I'm like, what the hell? And it's like such a creepy moment because there's an old rotary phone, and it's just like, I'm just staring at the thing like in a horror movie, like, should I pick this up? And I did. I walked over to the phone, and I picked it up, and I just listened, and there's nothing there. It was just silence. I'm like, hello? No response. It wasn't a phone call. It was just stopped. And then a minute later, I had to go on and do a Ouija board with the Conjuring House people. I'm like, what a way to start that off, you know?
Yeah, I remember you saying on the live stream that you were in a haunted house at the time, but hearing the backstory, it's even a creepier house with the mannequins all around and the Christian farmhouse. It's just very, I mean, there's haunted and then there's just plain creepy too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just kind of that just weird vibe where you're just, you know, not truly comfortable. I kept hurting myself in the house too. Like, not intentionally, I should say, but I was working out and I had exercise bands, and I'm just tall. I'm 6'2", but my apartment in Austin has got a pretty tall ceiling. So when I was doing my shoulder exercises 3 different times, I put my hand up and I freaking hit the fan in my right above me, and these things were like whipping, like really hard fans, and I cut my hands, and on all 3, well, I shouldn't say all 3, I have more than 3 knuckles, but 3 different knuckles, and they were to the point where they were bleeding, and I still have bruising on one of them. That was like May, I don't know, 15th or 13th, so 2 months later, my knuckles are still bruised from how hard the thing hit me, and all that stuff kept happening. I'm like, this is a weird property. I want to go back to Austin. I miss my apartment.
Yeah, I'm accident prone in a normal house, so if there was a house like that where I just injured myself more, I would want to leave too.
Exactly, yeah. I was done at the end, and I really just wanted to come back. And I had literally, right before I came up, sorry, I'm sniffling, just everything.
It's okay.
getting over the damn thing. Coronavirus, I've had just congestion, and like I said, you can hear it in my voice. I still sound like a freaking, I don't know, gravelly old man when I'm speaking right now. But I just gotten these knuckle tattoos that say Doom on my right hand with the skull as one of the O's. And literally, one of those fans, when it hit me, ripped off part of the scab that I just gotten there like 2 weeks before.
Ow.
And just was bleeding everywhere. I'm like, why is this happening? Please, just let me go home. So yeah, that was
yeah,
extra
that's so painful.
It was. You don't want to have that experience. It's not recommended.
Yeah, I really don't. I really can injure myself perfectly fine. I don't need any more injuries.
Yeah, no. The injuries are where I draw my line.
Yeah, those are the worst. Yeah, I had a guest on once that said they were at a haunted building. And this is the only story anyone's ever told me on the show that physically made me cringe. And she sat down on a bench, and what she didn't know is there was like a rusty needle or nail sticking up, and it went straight into, well, like her butt. Which is just really painful. It went like all the way. Oh my God, it was horrible.
No, I'm always worried about that, being in abandoned places, and I always think about how just crazy it is that I've never like truly been hurt. I've been chased by people in the woods. I've had a property owner in Texas at an abandoned school that I went to in the middle of nowhere to run me down the highway with a shotgun in his pickup, like chasing me, threatening to shoot me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I found heroin baggies, meth, like literal heroin needles. There was this one abandoned nursing home in Austin that I actually made a video at that's demolished now. But when we went in there, the entire hallway, you got to imagine, it was probably 5 feet wide, 6 feet, like a very thin hallway the whole way through. There's only one entrance, one exit, and then it's all at the end of this hallway. And it's just a very long hallway. All the windows were boarded up, so it's pitch black inside of there. There's no natural light. We went at like 2 p.m., but it was just pitch black. And we found, that was a place where we found, it's in the video too, all these different small baggies of some sort of drugs. I assumed it was heroin just because those little tied off black baggies. I used to love like Live PD and stuff like that, so I've seen people like get busted for that, and I'm like, oh my God, man, this is like literally like drugs right here. There's needles next to it. But the kicker was, when they left this nursing home, they had just piled all the trash and stuff in there into these garbage bags, and I had never seen this. I've been to so many abandoned buildings. This was insane to me. They were red garbage bags with biohazard symbols printed on them. And that, I researched it, is a biohazard waste trash bag, which means that if there's stuff in there, it's contaminated in some way. It's got some sort of like typically a bodily fluid on it, like feces, urine, vomit, blood, and there were literally like, I'd say easily 150 of these trash bags just piled up in the building. And I was just thinking the whole time, we had to like step over them to get through the hallways. I'm like, if we, accidentally spill one of these and we have like it's covered in like old blood or something, it's just, it's going to be very unsafe. I'm assuming that's not good for your health to even put that stuff into the air. I was wearing a respirator, I always do, but either way, like, that's just something you don't want to have to deal with when you're trying to investigate on top of that, and you got to worry about people also possibly being in the building.
Yeah, but you would think they would just dispose of that because, people do tend to go into places even if they're not supposed to, whether it's someone doing drugs or just someone wandering. I mean, that's just not safe because I think they could probably sue the city or something for that.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought too. I have thought that many times being in some abandoned buildings. There's actually the last 2 videos that I put on my channel. I've been filming lately with my dad, and he and I went to, it's called the Sandhaven Sanitarium in Dunsith, I should say. North Dakota, 10 minutes from the Canadian border, and the people online, once again, something that I always try to convey to them is just exactly how dangerous it is doing like what I do, as opposed to like a production where you have, safety teams, EMS on site, everything like that. When we do this shit, it's literally just me and whoever I'm with. I haven't explored the buildings all the way. Like a lot of times when it's abandoned, you don't know who's in there. And these buildings on the sanitarium campus were some of the absolutely most dangerous places I've ever seen, to the point where we almost did not film there because we were in the town of Dunseth just before trying to pick up some supplies. And, like, the dude at the hardware store is like, you guys shouldn't go into that building. I would never go in there. You couldn't pay me. You're going to die. And, like, my dad's just buying something, and he's like, oh, great. He's, like, way more, safety cautious than me. I've done, abandoned stuff so much more than him. But, I mean, you head in that building. I mean, there's 8 or 9 buildings on this campus. You had floors that had literally fallen through. Like, there's one point when I walked down a hallway and I wasn't really looking at the ground. I almost fell into a pit where the entire floor had just fallen through, and there's, like, rusty-ass poles that are sticking up from the ground. We had people that had multiple times, probably 5 or 6 different groups of people that came to the buildings at night, and they would just run around breaking stuff. They were drunk. They were throwing up, like, in front of our car. Safety hazard on that end. Then you got rattlesnakes. When I first got to the building, I was just getting B-roll. I literally walked, like, 10 feet from my car, and I came back. I had 3 ticks on me. I'm like, I didn't even touch a damn bush. How do I have ticks on me? And they're, like, crawling on my legs. Ugh, ticks I just hate. Ugh, creepy.
Ticks are the worst.
Yeah, they're worse than spiders in my opinion. That's, like, the lowest on the tier of insects. Like a blood-sucking tick that can give you Lyme disease. Like,
Yeah, I had a tick on my head once, and that was really weird. After camping, I just, like, felt this thing on the back of my head, and I'm like, what is this? And my dad's like, oh, you have a tick. And my mom's like, burn it off. And my dad's like, that'll catch your hair on fire. So trying to pry that off with, like, tweezers, that sucked. I was, like, 8 or something. So I was, like, really little. Which was just, like, the worst, too. It was, like, 2 days after camping.
Oh, and then it's been there for a while, too.
Yeah. They're creepy.
Good.
I always forget about them.
I've had ticks. Luckily, they've never actually bitten me. I've had to remove ticks from my dog, and that's never fun. But I'm just kind of wrap that up. That whole place was just too much, to the point where I was doing an interview with a woman who worked there in the past, and I asked her if she would go in. She said no, it's too dangerous. And while we were talking about that, we had set up right in front of the main hospital building a gigantic chunk of bricks crumbled off of the face of the building. I'd never seen a building just, like, fall apart right there. And we all turned our heads. We're like, did that really just happen when we're talking about this place being dangerous? And we, like, zoomed over on the camera. You can see the dust, and you can hear it just clear as day, just the building, like, falling in on itself. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's really crazy. I've never seen that either. I know we're coming towards the end of the show, though. I want to thank you so much for coming on today, Colin. It's been great talking to you. And again, congratulations on all your YouTube success. And stay spooky.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I could easily talk for hours. If you get me going, you can't shut my ass up. Trust me, it's not a good situation. But I'm glad that you had me on. Love the program, obviously. I wish I had a little catchphrase that I could repeat here, but I guess I'll just go with the stay spooky. And thanks to everybody who's listening. And have a great weekend. Stay safe out there.
Thank you. Yeah, we would love to have you back on in the future and feel better fully soon. And thank you again so much.
Yeah, next time I won't be gravelly and coughing and sniffling the whole time, just sounding disgusting over the phone. You're probably like, oh, thank God he's not actually in the studio with me right now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I've done my show sick before, so I'm sure the audience has heard that out of me.
Perfect. I'm going to head out. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, Colin was such a great guest. I want to thank you all for listening. The show definitely would not be possible without all of you, and I will talk to you guys again next week. Bye.
Not only am I Dave Schrader, but I'm Dave Schrader of Travel Channel's The Holzer Files, and you're listening to Ghost host Sophia Temporelli on LiveParanormal.com. I feel left out. I wanted to throw myself into your mix of voiceovers now.
I love it. It's almost like we didn't leave break.